So one of the obvious ways that people uh, can be affected by movies, by TV shows, and by books also, because books are not exempt from this. Like we're gonna rip into books on this too, because everybody thinks the solution is, oh, turn off the TV and read the book. No,
Yes, it's not about TV, it's about entertainment.
it's about entertainment in general. It's about things that you are giving your mind over to
Mm-hmm.
for whatever reason that you're giving it over
Sure.
for. So the first one, which is kind of obvious that a lot of people have talked about, but we have maybe slightly different ways of talking about it, is going to be in interpersonal relationships. Now, I've already, every Hallmark movie ever has already been debunked. We don't need to
Mm-hmm.
go through that and talk about that. But I think personal experience might be handy to have in a conversation like this, which you and I don't really have. For one thing, we're not women, and
Nope.
and as far as relationships are concerned, it does affect men, but when it comes to books and TV shows and movies, it seems to affect women on a much, much larger scale. And beyond just it's something else other than the just, oh, it sets unrealistic expectations. I hate when people say, oh, unrealistic expectations, because that's just kind of the way of getting around saying the actual thing, of explaining what unrealistic expectations actually means. Like, you just say that and then you give up and then you just stop.
Yeah, there's
Oh,
a way
that
in which
sets
it's right and
unrealistic
there's a way.
expectations, so therefore it's wrong. Because that is never countered with a realistic expectation. It's never countered with an actual solution. It's always encountered with, oh, you should just have no expectations whatsoever and just expect your life to be crap,
Well, there's still a point there, but
or expect the absolute opposite.
so you would say it's not a case of good question, bad answer. It's a case of good question, no answer provided at all.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, and even what unrealistic expectation means, it is very rarely ever actually been explained, at least to me, of what people mean when they say that.
mm-hmm.
I know the definitions of those words. I can go and find them in a dictionary of what unrealistic expectations actually are.
Mm-hmm.
And it should be fairly obvious what even is meant at face value by the phrase. It's like you're expecting something that's not going to happen.
Yeah, like odds are that the relationship that is best for you is not the it's not some supermodel wife that you happen to save in a damsel in distress setting and love at first sight, and you two never fight and have like that's not how it works, folks.
Yes. The best thing you can possibly hope for is that you get all the fighting out within the first 8 years of your marriage,
Great.
which means a lot of fighting
Guess so.
because it's for your entire life. Or you have so many kids early on in the marriage that you don't have any time to fight.
Oh, there's that too.
That's another tactic.
There's that too. So I mean, yeah, that's an example. But in my head, when I say that, I can think of the answer that is lacking when enough people say, "Well, those are just unrealistic expectations." Like, yes, they are. How about I just settle for a normal, good, holy relationship? It's
Well,
not
then
really
they'll call
settling.
that an
That's just
unrealistic
amming up.
expectation.
Well, then
They'll
I'm
say,
going to
oh,
set out
those
to.
don't exist. You're being unrealistic.
Well, I can set them out to prove
Clearly
them
they
wrong.
do, because I have my parents. I have other couples that I can look at and see that they have it.
Mm-hmm.
But then people start going down the list of statistics of, oh, why that's never going to happen to you. First of all, shut up. Second of all,
Mm-hmm.
most of those statistics don't cover people who are regular churchgoers.
Yep.
As we have fewer and fewer of those, we are becoming exceptions to the rule because the rule changed, and what had been the rule is now the exception. So we are what used to be the rule. So
Yep.
people who actually have their heads screwed on straight and have their minds right before starting a relationship. And there's more of us than you'd think.
Yeah, if you live your life according to the good standards of the past, you are de facto uh, better than many, 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 many other people around you.
Exactly.
So, or at least you're trying to be, because you're broken and whatever else. But anyway, yeah.
So
So that's a bit of the guy's perspective on it.
a little bit, yes. And it's not going to necessarily be this. It's not going to be picture perfect of what you read in that book and what you saw in that show. The woman just falling for you for no reason whatsoever, really.
Mm-hmm.
And I think most guys actually know that. And I have this idea. I think others do too. Women tend to be a lot more susceptible to it. And so at this point, I am again going to hand my microphone over to my wife. So that way she can tell it her way, which is better than the way that I'd be able to tell it. This has been a rant of hers almost since we've met, and she's the one that wrote the notes for this particular section. So I'm gonna hand
Done?
it over to her now.
All right.
Honey, come over here.
Well,
Yeah.
yes, this has been a rant of mine. Lots of unrealistic expectations when it comes to the media and all that. Women are very emotional. And, well, how do I even start this? There's so much to say. But I'm trying not to, give a whole, rant about my life story here. I don't want to do that.
We've talked about it for the last 5 years.
There's
Well-
value to. I mean, there's value to going into that though. So
Yeah.
I give you permission to use yourself as an example.
I probably am because, yeah, he was just saying I should use myself as an example, and I intend to because I actually intend to write a book that's related to this because I want ladies to understand that there's a difference between romanticizing about a relationship and actually living it. So whenever we ladies are watching those romance movies like Star Wars, like with Harrison Ford and like everything and all that, we tend to look at some of the characters and say, I really want to be this character because she, in what we are seeing, is a very attractive woman, and that is what we are seeing that men are attracted to. So we tend to personify that attitude because we think that's going to attract that said person, who in turn believes that he is like the male version of that person, if that makes any sense. So like you
Yeah.
have Anakin and Padme, for instance, and which is
such a healthy couple.
yeah, and I went through that illusion personally. So and you're just going through this phase where the guy that you're into is someone who really likes Anakin, likes Star Wars, and he likes all these things, and you can't help but see himself as that person, and then in turn you kind of want to become the person that character is attracted to. So you're setting yourself up for unrealistic expectations about someone that is clearly not you. It is a fictional character created by, I can't think of the specific person who created that. I don't want to say the wrong thing. But, and then you can just basically impose those qualities onto yourself and live in the illusion that, oh, we're living the exact same story. And it occurred to me today that it's really almost a vain thing that we women do, where we're also obsessed with having the perfect story about how mommy and daddy met. And I mean, there's nothing wrong with having a good story about how mommy and daddy met. That's a great thing to have. But when you're obsessed with it being like this romantic, like big, long story that you read about to your kids, which I think in the back of my mind, I think is what I went through, is I wanted it to be a good story, but also I wanted it to be that story because I didn't think anything else would be. I think everything else would just be boring. And yet, the way I met my husband was the most ironic and definitely did not expect at
Yeah.
all. And it ended up being a great love story in the end anyway, which is my one of my relations praises the fact that we have the best love story of all time. And I was like, oh, you're very nice. Yeah, and not all of the guys out there are like the guys in the Hallmark movies. They're really not. Most of them are not. And I've learned this also with my husband and how men are just very simple. They don't like. They really are not paying attention as much as you think they are. And there are some that do, obviously, but it's just again very big unrealistic point of view and seeing men that way. Yeah, that's pretty much the big thing there. And with any women out there that are struggling, if any women are listening to this podcast, if you are seeing someone and you're obsessed with the idea of the person and not the person themselves, you need to seriously reevaluate what you're doing because that will cause a lot of harm for you and your significant other that you were in a relationship with. So that'd be my advice to women is just make sure you're falling in love with the man that is right in front of you and not the idea of what you want that man to be because it will not end well. And I know this.
Yeah, that's really well said. First off, what's funny is that you want it to be a good story, and we know that any great relationship is a good story. So the problem isn't that. The problem is that you just want to control the story too much, or you want it
Yes.
to look a certain way when that's not how good stories come to be. You know?
When you take that control, I guess, away from God and trusting Him to give you just a beautiful life and everything and following that said will that He wants you to impose, it just causes a lot of like it can get ugly in some ways, and it's not good when you're just not allowing that free will to partake in that, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, a question for you. In your life and in the lives of those that you've observed, when this is going on, what are the traits that you see women trying to take upon themselves, or that you see men trying to take upon themselves? Like, is it just the Hallmark movie stereotype? Is it just the Anakin and Padme type of stuff, or is it like men who are falling for this? What do they do? Women that are falling for this, what do they do?
Well, for one thing, they are very well, they tend to dress like them, for one, in their hairstyle and in the way that they carry themselves too. Like I remember, there's a stand-up comedian, Fred Klatt. He would watch John Wayne a lot, and he would say to himself that he would psych himself out because he'd start walking like John Wayne sometimes because he'd be watching it so much. So like when you watch things like that for a very long time, you kind of start acting like the person out of instinct because you've just been repeatedly watching it because you enjoy watching it.
Yeah.
And that's one way it does. And yeah, it can get really weird. And sometimes it's really hard to like see the real person too when they really get into it. It's almost like basically it's almost like you're being an actor where you're still in your acting phase and you haven't phased out of it yet, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, absolutely.
And yeah, that's, they just act like them a lot. And sometimes it's a little bit annoying, especially the women, particularly. Especially when it comes to certain Disney princesses. It's some of them are okay to be like, but some of them it's like very clearly, let's not be naive like Ariel, okay?
hmm
For instance. But
It's like this is coming from the simple-minded man, right? So not an expert on this, although the ways in which men can screw up, like, yeah, I can see, faults in my own life like that in the past and whatever else. Like, of course I have that tendency in me. Yeah. So do women intentionally like make themselves dumber at times if they're trying to imitate certain characters, or do they try, like, I imagine one of the ways in which this plays out is that they're going to try and be the strong feminine character type.
yes, they can do that definitely. And they try to be at a level of intellect that they are not or below their intellect, which just honestly, I mean, I guess I'd ask you, would that make you very unattracted to a woman if she made herself dumber to make you look smarter, I guess, or something like that, if that's a way to put it directly?
I mean, like, I like honesty, you know?
Yeah.
So just kind of, here's an example of this that everybody's definitely seen. Women, by and large, seemingly like to wear makeup. At least I know I'm not alone in saying that I'm a guy who, like, I'm not saying like you should never wear makeup, anything, but you should not feel the need to just pretty yourself up. And how dare I appear in public or to my husband if I'm not, if this isn't done right, because it, in a way, it's lying. And
Yes.
I don't mean that it actually is lying, because again, it's fine to a point, but hopefully people know where I'm going with that. Like, it's not you, and I'm fine with you as you are, and I don't need this getting in the way of it.
Oh yeah, no, I agree. And also for the girls watching, no makeup, ladies and gentlemen. I I don't do makeup. I did when my husband and I were dating, but all I would do was add highlights to the beauty. I would only do like a smoky eye or something like that,
Hmm.
just to hide my baggy eyes on occasion. Because sometimes I'm like all women, we're vain and we're self conscious about how we look. We're always worried about that, and it took a long time for. No, actually, it didn't take that long for me to stop wearing makeup, really. But I also, it's so much work,
Yeah.
and I'm so pale. It does not like there's not a skin tone like foundation out there that actually hides my skin. The only one that I've ever found was the one I actually wore on my wedding day, which was the last time I actually wore makeup full on like that. That was the last time I ever did. So, and I understand like people covering up like acne and stuff like that. Like that's, yeah, if you want to do that, that's fine. But there's a
hmm
certain beauty that I think women just need to bring back, because hiding your eyes by so much dark makeup and then being like this bland, it's a different, you see someone different when you look at that. And I remember seeing some of my friends
Yeah.
when they take off their makeup, I'm like, whoa, who are you? It's like, I mean, don't go drag queen. Don't go that far with makeup, because that's just no.
No,
Yeah.
I'll offend somebody by saying this, but just don't go Sean Hannity. That guy is pasty when he appears on Fox.
Yeah. 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 And men don't need it either, unless they have like blemishes, or if they like. But then again, just be confident in your own skin. Yeah, because God gave you the body that He gave you, and the skin is supposed to be the way it is. Unless
hmm
it needs some help, which it could be your diet, but that's another story.
Yeah. So in other words, in relationships, like, we're all searching to try and figure out who we're supposed to be, in a sense. But don't look to some TV image. And don't look to some character to figure out who that is. Like, you're not supposed to have like, a role model is not somebody you're supposed to try and be. You know, you can imitate attributes of the person. That's what a good role model is. But you're fundamentally you, and nothing should ever change about that. You know, you're constantly called to greater and higher things, but those greater and higher things probably don't include, you know, how that person dressed or how that person acted or how that person womanized this woman or attracted this man. Like, that's not how this is supposed to work.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and if you're in pursuit of the better story, you're going to get a better story by doing that. And you're going to get a worse story by not doing that.
Yeah. You have to, I guess in a way, you have to discover for yourself who you actually are, which I know, like, I'm preaching to the choir. Everyone's still trying to figure that out sometimes. But
Yep.
one thing that it didn't really hit me until I was married that I was meant to be a mother. And this whole time before that, I was like looking at Maureen O'Hara and McClintock, like with my husband's favorite movie, and all these other people I grew up with, like Padme and who else? All these other people that were like big inspirations of mine. Padme is not one of them, just to be clear. It's not Padme anymore. But definitely McClintock, Maureen O'Hara, and her character there. But it just hit me that I wasn't meant to be anything like any of those women. I was meant to be a mother. And it defines you when you discover like that vocation and what you are meant to do with your life. And I realized the whole time that nothing else made sense until I became a mother. Like what I was meant to be and what I was meant to do. Because when I'd pursue careers, nothing made sense. It just didn't feel like what I was meant to do.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so yeah.
There you go. That's the task, folks.